Reactive training systems.
So we're pretty clearly about individualizing training. We believe that an individualized training program is going to lead to an ideal training program, something that's given you the best return on your training investment. And I want to show you a new tool that we've developed that will help you to do that, help you to individualize your training and really to optimize it. So to get us started, you'll need to go to the Reactive Training Systems website, reactivetrainingsystems.com. You'll log in, click on apps, and hopefully you've already been using this to log your training. This will be most relevant to those of you who are doing that. So this is my dashboard, but if you go over to the report section, you'll see that I've already got a couple meta block reviews queued up, but you can queue up a new report, click meta block review, you can give it a name here, and you'll select which of your block reviews that you've already set up would you like to review. So again, this is going to be relevant to those of you who have already been using the system, who have already been keeping your training logged here and been doing your block reviews, as scheduled. So you can select or deselect as many block reviews as you want. Then you click next and it queues it up. So you would need to wait for that to finish while the report is being run. But I've got a couple here that have already queued up. I've got a meta block review for my bench and for my front squat. You don't have to separate them out by lift, but for me, my training is a little bit weird in that I have blocks that are relevant for different lifts at different times. So, if that's a requirement for you, you can certainly do that, but for most people that won't be a requirement. But I want to show you what a meta block review looks like. So we're looking at this meta for my bench. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to associate all of your supporting exercises. Now by default everything is going to be checked because the system doesn't automatically know how you want to associate them. So what I would recommend that you do is first uncheck everything, and then you can very easily use the search to narrow this down. So anything with squat in the name is going to be a squat movement. Anything with bench in the name is going to be a bench movement. Anything with deadlift in the name is going to be a deadlift movement. And then if you remove the search filters, you'll see that most things have been associated. There's only a few things left, and you can go through one by one and choose how you want it to be associated. So like floor press obviously is a bench movement. Dumbbell row, maybe you want that to fall under your deadlift. You want to assess it with respect to the deadlift and so on. So I'm just going to cancel out of this because I've already made these associations, but that'll be an important step for you. And again, we're going to be looking at this meta for my bench press to kind of show you what we're looking at. The first section here is the competition lift heat map, and there's a pop-up here that will kind of tell you the things that I'm telling you now, but it's a handy reference for you. What we're looking at is we have reps on the vertical axis and RPEs across the horizontal axis. And the idea here is to see what rep and RPE combination does your competition lift like the most. And we can look at it in a number of different ways. We can look at your ending estimated 1RM, your peak estimated 1RM, the gain that's associated with that block, and then how many blocks contain that rep and RPE combination. So looking at ending estimated 1RM and peak estimated 1RM, those are about performance, absolute performance. So we can see that for my bench, I have the best absolute performances when I'm kind of in this range here. Looks like singles, doubles, triples, 8.5 or 9 RPEs. And if I switch it over to peak, you can see that it's a little bit different. There's a lot more variety going on here in terms of the warmer the color, the higher the value. So the warmer the color, the higher the estimated 1RM. The cooler the color, the lower the estimated 1RM. And if we switch it over to gain, this is how much the estimated 1RM improved over the course of a development cycle. And what you're looking for with this, you're looking for warm spots in the chart. So you can see that this right here, I would say, is kind of a warm spot in the chart for me. And that's, singles, doubles, triples, 8 to 9 RPE. And that resonates as being pretty true historically. So I get the best gain when I'm in that spot in the chart. Now, this doubles at a 10 RPE is potentially a warm spot in the chart, but we don't really know because there's a bunch that hasn't been trialed around it. So that can give you some ideas on where to take future development blocks when you need to explore new areas of lifter response. Or if you're training for a competition and you need something that will produce results this time, this can give you a justified belief. And if you click on any of the dots, it will expand this pop-up that'll tell you which blocks contained that rep and RPE combination, and then some more detail about that block. Number of blocks is useful. It kind of gives you an idea of how deep the trials go in any particular rep range. So singles, doubles, triples, 8 to 9 RPE is kind of where I had the warmest spot when we were looking at the gain. And we see that that's also where I have the most trials. That kind of makes sense when you think about it. The next section down the screen is the assistance and supporting exercises. So what we're looking at here is an assessment of which assistance and supplemental exercises are best associated with good performances. So again, there's a number of different ways that you can sort this: estimated 1RM values, gain values, number of sets. I have it set to gain values right now, and what we're looking at is the average. So this line here in blue is your average ending estimated 1RM, average peak estimated 1RM, and average gain for any block that has that exercise in it. So you can see here at the top of my list, dumbbell 530 tempo bench press. Not what you would think is being a big producer, and it's probably not, because I only did 3 sets, and you can see compared to others, that was probably just one session, one off session, and it just happened to be in a block that had a good response, so here it is. So you still need to look at the data. You can't just blindly follow what's here. So I would probably not just throw that in there. I wouldn't say that that's justified. But if you go down the list, you'll see that next up I have bench with mini bands, and the average gain in the 2 blocks that had those is 25, almost 26 pounds. And if I go back up to the top, you'll see that the average gain across all blocks is about 14 pounds. So it's quite a bit better than my average performance. There are only 2 blocks, so it still could be chance, but that's more justified than lots of other things are going to be. You can see that slingshot also has a really good gain. And I think it's also interesting and maybe even telling that I've got good responses in 2 exercises that are logically pretty similar. Both tend to overload the top of the range of motion. As you move down, you can see more and more exercises, and even if you go all the way to the very bottom, you'll see the exercises where your gain is the lowest. So these are exercises that you may even want to avoid. For me, a 2-count pause bench, which may, I'm sure sounds strange, because that's an exercise that I recommend quite a bit. But it doesn't produce much result for me. So this is really interesting, I think, and a really useful way for you to look at your data, parse out your block reviews so that you can find out, what is most associated with good result for you in all your different training, all the different blocks that you do. And you can look at this across any of the different lifts. And yeah, so the aim is, as always, to help you make better training decisions. Hopefully the meta block review helps you do that. Thanks for watching.
Reactive Training Systems.